Well, yeah. No one.
I think it's corrupt. I really honestly think politics is so corrupt. I don't want to know.
In general, right?
Yes.
Well, in general, right.
So I don't want to be bothered with it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I just think that it's just a shame that, and well, like we had said earlier, my great grandson has 4 great grandmas. Do you know the wealth of information that kid could get? It's just a shame that he is so small because he's only 15 months old. You know.
That's okay. You put me onto it. I'll talk to him. Because I'll hear about whoever, whatever, from someone else I'm talking to, and they'll talk about someone like you or someone else across the neighborhood. If they don't necessarily know themselves, they may know somebody,
right?
And then I will want to hopefully speak to those people to then know more about a given place, like Hoffman Station, and understand that there are lots of stations in the country, but it ends up becoming a kind of fried green tomatoes kind of story, which is in itself centered around a railway stop.
Yeah, I mean, because Hoffman Station really wasn't just around here, okay, just in this little area. Right. I mean, it went all the way to Town Line, all the way up Town Line to Beach Ridge, really.
Right.
I mean, because there was a grocery store there, or a little country store there, you know, and there wasn't. I'm trying to think what other business did he have? I can't even remember their last name now. Oh God, is that something about that? I used to put my kids in the buggy and walk up there to the store for stuff, and
you could still do that on the streets. Because we don't have sidewalks.
You know? Oh, no. Yeah, right. No. Yeah. And I don't want sidewalks, if you really want to know the truth.
Well,
I like it the way it is.
Right.
You know?
If people,
and we didn't have all these street lights. I mean, it was black out here. You know? In fact, I can remember my sister-in-law used to go meet, because she went to NT school, and she used to meet kids that she graduated with, from NT. To club, they called it. Okay, and what it was is that just all these girls would get together, and she graduated with once a month. Okay, and because I was a sister-in-law, I was invited, and I really liked that. I really did like that. But there was these kids are, they're from NT. You know, they didn't like coming out here, and we all took turns at each other's house. They didn't like coming out here because it was too dark. They wanted the street lamps.
They wanted some glam.
Yes.
A little glam.
Yes. Yeah, they thought, boy, it's dark out here. I don't even know where I am. You know.
Oh goodness me!
But things change, you know, and I really don't mind the street lights because it is a lot better.
Oh sure, well, safety wise and so forth.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. You remember trains going up and down this area here?
Yes.
Up until how up until?
Well, my kids were little. I can't remember the year, but I mean, I can remember my kids getting in trouble because they would hear the train and they would run. It was right where those trees are. That's where the tracks are.
Right over there more, yeah.
And they would run to where that ditch is, because there's a ditch there, because they would want to wave to the caboose guy. And they would get in trouble because I was afraid something, they'd get hurt. But every darn time they'd hear that. And there were set times. It came at set times. It wasn't that they were there all the time. I know they came at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They came, I think, 1 o'clock at night, in the middle of the night. And I don't know, I think they came sometime in the morning, too, but I can't remember what time it was in the morning. But yeah, I mean, my kids, they might remember when it stopped, but I can't remember a date.
Right.
That's a year.
Okay. Right. No, but even like approximately when as they say, when the tracks went quiet for the last time kind of comment.
Yes.
I'm sure that my railroad history peers would but just curious, the people who lived around, them at the time, it's fascinating how certain things are so routine, and then it's, it just goes away,
And it's funny because I was just reading on the NT page that they have on Facebook about people complaining about the whistle. What is it? These, I got to blow it. Well, of course they got to blow it. Yeah. And they used to stop at town line. They did not go right across, and they would blow that whistle, and you never even heard it. You're so used to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, even in the middle of the night, you had no idea the train was going through. Maybe it got a little bit of vibration,
Right.
but other than that, you didn't hear that whistle.
And did they used to stop on the other side of the tracks?
No, they stopped on this side before they crossed.
Oh, okay.
They only went this way. They did not come back. I don't know where they went.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
That I remember. They could have, but I only remember them coming this way.
They would stop short of the road.
They would stop, yes, and they would have to blow their whistle so many times, and then they could cross it.
Right.
Because, like I said, there was no lights, there was no arms that came down.
Did they stop on the other side to load, unload anything at that stage?
Not when I was here.
Simply went through at that
Because
point?
I mean, even the depot was gone by the time I moved here. It was done.
Okay. Right.
It must have fallen down, or they took it down, or something.
Okay,
I
I
don't
see
know.
what you mean. All right. So that means that probably the original terminal, as far as you understood it, at the time, that the physical terminal's no longer there.
Yeah, it was no longer there.
Just the neighborhood that grew up around it,
Mm-hmm.
essentially, as far back as
Right, and like I said, it wasn't just in here. I mean, it went all the way up to Beach Ridge. There was, and then because it always fascinated me because once you hit Beach Ridge, it was a lot of fields, and it wasn't here.
Right.
I mean, we had our fields, but not like there. I mean, there was sparse houses after that on Town Line.
Okay.
And then eventually they started building up.
And then so forth, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this has been an extremely fascinating conversation. Thank you very much for
You're welcome.
this interview. It really means a lot. When something like even various towns kind of get a little forgotten because people move away, certainly smaller hamlets also kind of get forgotten too because of the sense of community. But it's nice to bring it all back again, and maybe with the way some things are going, we'll circle back to some of this.
I hope so. I hope so because everybody says, well,
a little bit.
Everybody says their childhood was the best, but I really do think the 50s and the 60s, maybe even the 40s, and before that, they were. I mean, people were different then, and that has a lot to do with the way the world is, I think.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to circle back at some point. Maybe my generation will start that.
Maybe. I hope so. Yeah, I hope so.
Because I love fireside chats, stuff like that, and just really shooting the what with whoever, and just coming back around. What was it? At my colleague and friend Arthur Gerbeck's funeral, his son recalled how different guys on their lawnmowers would basically have a convention where they pull up to each other from different properties and shoot it between them, and then get back on their mowers and go back up.
Yeah, well, it's just like the housewives talking over the fence,
right?
Or talking over the. As you can see, I still have a clothesline.
Right, sure. Well, that's the best way. And you recall party lines like both?
Oh my gosh, we had a party. I think there were 7 or 8 of us on that party line. In fact, actually, I got even better than that.
Sure.
When we moved here from Dunkirk onto Saunders Settlement Road, we had the old crank telephone.
Wow.
Where you cranked it, and then you talked into it and told what number you wanted. It was the old Sanborn phone company, and it's still there. The old Sanborn is still there.
Building,
731. Yeah. And we had so many people on our line that we had a certain ring to know that it was us. Our phone was ringing constantly because everybody's phone would ring, but we had your own special ring. And when that ring, ours was 1 long and 5 short. And everybody would stop dead and count 1 long, 5 short. Yep, that's us. And we would answer the phone.
That's the only way you knew.
Yes.
So talk about caller ID. That was that was the closest thing too. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it was really, and coming from the city, because Dunkirk was a small city. Okay, coming from the city, this was so mundane out here, and I loved it.
Something about pressure release, maybe.
Yeah. Well, it was just so different. It's just such a different life. I mean, your neighbors were, I got to be friends with the girl next door, which is a 1/4 of a mile away, and to go to one another's houses, we used to walk through a wheat field to get to her house.
Imagine that now. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, that was on the corner of Diller Road and Sutter Settlement. And our house, her house was here. Mine was a quarter of a mile down that way. So, yeah. So it was like I said, altogether different life. And
sure.
It's it was a good time, I think, in space wise.
I enjoy getting to know my neighbors by virtue of sailing my ships across their backyards, which I consider to be oceans in a sense. In my mind, they were pretty tolerant of me, thankfully, and we were honestly we got along great. And the funny thing is that two neighbors down the way from me to the south, there was sons Mike and Dave. They were sons of Wally and Gracia Smith, and her maiden name was actually Di Francesco. Oh. And she and her parents had immigrated to this country right out of post-war Italy, basically. Wow. Fascinating story right there. So I talked to her parents, and they still spoke largely Italian, but she would translate between them, and I learned what ships they came over on. So Mike and Dave, Dave, the older son, had shared the same birthday as me in August. So he still didn't believe me years later. He says, we can't have the same, you and me, we can't have the same birthdays.
Isn't it funny?
But yeah, that was kind of cool to know that. And you would only know that by really kind of hanging out enough,
right?
If they don't mind. Well, it's been a pleasure again. That was your bonus feature, everybody. So on this thing. So, anyways, thank you again for meeting with me today. Okay.
I enjoyed myself. Thank you.
Talk to you later.
Okay. You take care.
And now I'm gonna pick up the phone.